We're going to go ahead and get started while our third panelist, Rolando, works to join us. And I appreciate everybody's patience. Again, this is a new initiative for us, a new program, but we're really excited here in our office and at the university to have the Javelina Alumni Association to be able to host a panel discussion, from some alumni who've been out in the world for a while and have some stories and success to share with our students, and appreciate our students who have tuned in. Looks like we've got a pretty good crowd. So let's just start off with just basic bio. If tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are in your career at this moment, and how you got from Texas A&M Kingsville or Texas A&I to that career stop. And my grandpa told me that it's ladies first. So Dr. Mora, we're going to start with you.
Okay, well, Linda Mora and I live in San Antonio, and I was sharing with Chris a little earlier that I've been all over the place. And so I graduated from A&I, and it will always be A&I in my heart, so I'll just refer to it as that. Finished school in 3.5 years, and they didn't have winter graduation, so I graduated in May of '68. Started teaching, and I thought that was what I wanted to do my whole life, but life takes turns. And so my first teaching job was in Bend Bolt, right down the road, and then we moved to Corpus Christi for 2 or 3 years. Then we moved to Laredo, then Zapata County, and back to Laredo. And then I went to Austin from there for a few years, and finally came to San Antonio. And so this is home now, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to share whatever I can with whoever's listening.
Chris, we introduced you online as a senior product director at 7-Eleven, but that really doesn't do your title justice. I think you're the brains behind the operation of one of the most successful fast food Mexican food restaurants in the country, Laredo Taco Company. So tell us a little bit about yourself, please, sir.
Oh, I appreciate it. Chris Switzer. I graduated from TAMUK in 2007 with my undergrad, 2008 with my MBA. My career journey started with Stripes convenience stores out of Corpus Christi. I started the company right after graduation, working in the merchandising department, and have stayed with that company through a couple acquisitions. Currently, the company was acquired by 7-Eleven, which led me on my journey to my current role with 7-Eleven, where I'm the senior product director over Laredo Taco Company and food service concepts for 7-Eleven nationally. So in my role, I run the brand and the category management, the procurement, the marketing side for the taco shops inside of Stripes convenience stores and now 7-Eleven convenience stores all over the nation. As Brad mentioned, it's a little known restaurant concept that's really successful. It's the 8th largest Mexican food chain in the US. And we're aggressively growing it all over the place, wherever 7-Elevens are at. So it's been an interesting journey for us. And I'm currently living in Dallas here with my wife and my 3 kids.
Very good, Chris. All right, so we're going to go from San Antonio to Dallas and now to Houston. And Rolando, I owe you an apology. Sorry we didn't have you ready to get you in easily, but we're glad to have you now. We've got a good group of students who have tuned in to listen to this panel discussion before they go to their virtual career fair tomorrow. And we're just handling introductions. So tell us a little bit about your where you are in your career right now, and how you got from Texas A&I back in the day to where you are now.
Okay, good. Can you guys hear me well? Yeah,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, very good. Yeah, apologies. I don't know, but technology, right? Because even with the COVID and the numerous number of Zoom meetings I've been on, it still seems like we still get the technology challenges every once in a while. So appreciate you guys working on the fly to get me the right link to get in. So yeah, so Rolando Garcia, I work with ExxonMobil in the Global Projects Organization. We manage projects for the corporation. That would be in the upstream, downstream, and in chemicals. Where I fit in the picture is I'm in the refining downstream portion, refining that is, and I'm the major projects manager for Division 1 in our Brownfield. Roughly speaking, I have all the large refining investments around the globe. And so anything basically over a couple of $100 million, all the way up to about 5 billion would be the projects that are in my portfolio. I graduated from Texas A&I in '87. And yeah, I heard you earlier, Linda, about it's always A&I. I think I feel the same way. But I did
Where you
graduate
went?
in Sorry?
That's where you went.
That's right. Did graduate in '87 with a civil engineering degree and hired on with ExxonMobil, Heritage Exxon actually, at their Baytown refinery, which is just south of Houston, Texas. And then after about I went through various assignments there, had engineering, supervisory, business assignments. And then I transferred into the downstream projects organization, where I then managed, I was about after 8 years, and then I began managing a series of projects that have taken me, quite frankly, across the United States and around the globe. So I've managed projects in Texas, Louisiana, Canada, the Netherlands, and I've been to multiple locations in project support and or oversight. And as I mentioned, some of my projects right now are in Canada and in England, as well as Texas and Louisiana. And so that's kind of and in between I've had various assignments, both technical and business related, as well as managerial and leadership positions. And so yeah, that's kind of the route I've taken to get to where I am.
All right, very good. So with your introduction set, now we'll move into the meat of the program, if you will, and see where we've got a good group of attendees right now, mostly students, which we're excited about. And I'm going to bring in Christina Rodriguez Gonzalez. She's our career services coordinator and somebody that our students are familiar with. She's really working directly with them in the career services space, getting them ready to take that next step after graduation. And so she's got a few questions that she'll lead you through. So I'm going to turn it over to Christina right now.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. So we do have a few questions already that we have students who have submitted. So the first question, which you may have touched based on, is what was your path like to reach your position that you are currently in now? I think everybody pretty much touched that, unless anybody feels like you want to add to your path.
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of comments. I think, and this is probably true for the other panelists, but the experiences and the positions I've had have been kind of a mix of technical, business, supervisory positions. And so I point that out because you start with a base of being in technical, right? At least for me in the engineering field, being very technical, and then building business skills and then management and leadership skills to kind of grow in the organization. So that's kind of an addendum to what I said earlier.
Fantastic. That is very true. Just because you are in one field of study doesn't mean that that's just the only field that you'll be working with. And so business is definitely a big avenue for a lot of the fields for our students. Do any of the other panelists want to add to that question?
Christina, the only thing that I would add is you asked about a path. I have a word for my path, and it was erratic. And it just because it, you know, life happens, and at that point in time, you have to make decisions. And of course, I thought I was going to be an old homemaking teacher for the rest of my life. That was my degree, and that's what I love to do. But as we moved around to different cities or towns in Texas, you know, as the wife of a football coach, you take whatever job is available. And so whether there's a vacancy or not. So I ended up teaching 4th grade. I ended up teaching high school. I ended up teaching middle school, because that's the job that was available and I could take. So I think you have to make the best of the situation in which you find yourself.
And I would agree, like, you know, life isn't always planned out the way you want from a career perspective, but you should like really embrace the opportunity to do new and different things. I found in my career that those are the times that I get the most enrichment and really see the greatest growth in my career, is when I was stretched to do something outside of my comfort zone. So, you know, have a plan for sure. And that's sort of been along my journey, but all those sort of twists and turns, I think I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't have the opportunity to go through some of those.
Good, thank you for sharing. A next question would be, what was a mistake you had throughout your career, and what was the outcome, and how did you learn from that experience?
Nobody's chomping at the bit on that one.
Yeah, it could be a challenge. It doesn't have to be a mistake. It could be a challenge.
Linda has raised her hand, so let's start there.
You know, I think when you get to a point where you're a hiring official, you know, in education, people say, oh, you know, so-and-so, my daughter needs a job. Can you hire her at, you know, wherever you are, whatever district you're in? And so I think one of the mistakes that's easy to make is to fall for the pressure of hiring a daughter, a friend, a cousin of somebody that you know, or somebody that somebody else knows. And somebody told me, you wouldn't hire your own mother. And I said, not unless you work for me and I could vouch for the skills, because you have to hire a person whose skills matches the job that you have. Otherwise, it can be a mistake, and it's a costly mistake in the long run.
Yeah, I would say that there's two experiences that popped to mind when you asked the question. One was the mistake that I thought I was making, but I didn't. And then the other one was, yes, kind of more of a challenging. I did something that wasn't the best thing, but, you know, ended up learning from it. And the first was I had charted out my path in terms of career development, and I had a view of what I thought I needed to do to kind of grow. And some of that was influenced by the company, right? The company has career paths that they outline for development to different either management or technical positions. And I think many companies have similar paths they lay out, and they're kind of more typical paths, as opposed to, you know, it has to be this exact path. And so I had a view of what my next assignment would be when I was early in my career. And my manager came to me and said, well, we want you to take this job. And I was like, nope, don't want it. It doesn't sound like the next best assignment for me. I'm not sure how that's going to help me grow. And you're responsible, we really need you here. And okay, well, I understand that, and I do want to contribute to the company, but is this really going to help me grow in terms of, you know, advancing or developing some additional skills where I can continue to add value to the corporation? And so I didn't think it was, and I took the position, right? And I tell you, and I think one of the other panelists mentioned this, it ended up being one of the best assignments I ever had, because it did stretch me, and I learned an area that I didn't think I would learn. And as it turned out, there was a lot of low-hanging fruit, if you will. in that opportunity. And so I really, benefited because I was able to add a lot of value in that assignment. So I thought I was making a mistake by taking the assignment, but it wasn't a mistake. It ended up benefiting me tremendously. And I think the lesson learned there is don't be afraid to try different things or things that may not seem like they're the best, because it could be, kind of a diamond in the rough, you will. The other experience I share with you is the mistake I've made in my career is letting myself get in over my head at times, right? And so I always felt as a younger engineer, it was my responsibility to take everything that I was given and to go off and work it as hard as I can. And in those scenarios, you got to be careful, because if you don't ever say no and you keep on just taking on more and more, you can quickly find yourself being drowned. And as a younger individual, you won't notice it. And we don't tend to raise our hand, because it's sort of like, well, how's that going to be viewed if I kind of came back and said but the lesson was that everything will suffer if you're in that kind of a situation. And so you have to be able to recognize what your capabilities are, and you have to understand what you can and cannot deliver on. I mean, push yourself clearly, but also understand that, hey, look, if I'm in over my head, I need to raise my hand and make sure that my management know that, so that we can get the right kind of structure or support in place.
Thank you, Rolando. We do have a question from one of our attendees. Students that are online with us, feel free to go ahead and type in your question in the Q&A box, and then we'll work through them as we receive them. So the first question is, how has the pandemic changed the way you hire?
For our organization, it's led to some different hiring practices. We're doing a lot more with virtual interviews, virtual career fairs, trying to respect the need for safety and things like that. But also, if you look out from a business perspective, for a lot of companies, it's also made us think about the types of roles and the folks that we want to hire. And also we're hiring for folks to be more remote than we ever have before. So, it's really changed and opened up a world of potential employment opportunities for folks who maybe aren't based in the DFW area, for example, where pre-COVID, it was very office support center centric. And now, 6 months into it, we're very open to finding the right people, sort of no matter where they live, because of what we're doing right here has unlocked a lot of potential for our business.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. Roland, what about Exxon?
Yeah, I would say that there's kind of a short-term impact and what I think will be a long-term impact. And the unfortunate circumstances of the short-term impact is that we're really not going to be hiring in the U.S. this year, which is really, really unfortunate. We've had a long-standing practice of hiring even through the up and down cycles of our business. But, COVID and just the change in the world, particularly in oil and gas and refining and chemicals, has been so significant. And with some of the challenges the corporation's looking at in terms of getting the right size organization and potentially even looking at layoffs in the company, just didn't feel it would be appropriate for us to be hiring this year given the circumstances. So that's an unfortunate situation from COVID. That's the short term. And long term, we will get back to hiring, because that's the lifeblood of our organization, as I'm sure everybody else would recognize. And so we do plan to hire. And I do think, similar to what Chris said, I think we are going to be looking at individuals that are more flexible. Of course, that's been the trend, I think, from the individuals we're hiring, is a demand or a desire to be able to work, to have flexibility in the workplace and in their work hours. And so I think that will be something we'll look at more, is how much support can we get from remote situations to reduce our office footprints and make ourselves more competitive.
I'm not in a hiring position, obviously, but I do work with a cohort of students that are working on their master's degree with UTSA. And there's always going to be need for teachers, because all of us here that are on this Zoom, we're here because teachers trained us, kindergarten all the way through master's and doctorate degrees. So teachers play an important role, but I've seen a lot of retirements because of the pandemic, the scare of, you know, being negatively impacted. And so teachers that are eligible to retire are going to retire because they, you know, they think, why am I putting myself out here in this? And then the other thing that looking for is, you know, technology skills. If you have, Chris has kids in school and, you know, they're at home right now. And, you know, I have friends who were teachers and have retired, and now they're Zooming with their grandkids. And, you know, my friends are going, I didn't sign up for this, you know? So it's a different environment, but there's always going to be room for teachers.
Thank you, Dr. Mora. So we have another question from Ms. Evina Moreno. How did you set yourself apart from others who wanted the same job or internship? We'll go ahead and start with Roland.
How did I set myself apart from others who wanted the same job or internship?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you. Very good question. So I think, you have to look at your college experience in terms of a career. At least that's my advice I give to students. And you treat the time you're spending at college as a way to not just build your technical capability, right, which is clearly, if you're like in an engineering field, right, very well defined, but you also need to spend some time trying to gain skills in some of these other areas I mentioned, such as business and leadership skills. And so I think to the extent you can get experiences with organizations, right, extracurricular organizations, particularly if you can get leadership positions, treasurer, vice president, president, those tend to demonstrate individuals who are willing to go out and take initiative and to be able to work in organizations to get things done. And so to the extent you can have those experiences in college, you couple that with your technical capability that you're learning from your engineering degree, and then any summer experience. Those are the things that really start standing out in terms of identifying you, just not as a person who's shown the capability to master the subject material that you're there for college, but also the ability to and the desire to kind of go above and beyond that and to contribute in a larger way.
Thank you. Chris?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. I know in my personal experience, some of the things that I would really recommend is, being really targeted with the companies you want to work for, and really researching the company to understand the type of role that you're getting into and to be able to speak to it. And I know even in my own personal interviewing experience with potential employees, folks who really understand the role coming in and can speak to things off the cuff and talk about, they've actually thought through it beyond just a sort of basic Google search, really helps you set yourself apart, and being able to talk about things from a broader perspective, showcase your leadership abilities, as Rolando talked about. Hugely important, I think, coming out of college, to show that you can, bring value to the company, take on responsibilities without having to have a lot of hands-on direction. In a fast-paced organization, we look for those types of skill sets. I think those are things that you can really showcase without maybe having a lot of direct employment experience through your extracurricular activities. And then, I think networking with folks in the organization that you really want to work for, talking with them, if you can have connections with folks, LinkedIn, to get an idea about the company culture coming in, being able to talk to it, making sure that you're fit for it. Those are things that helped me along my journey to sort of show that I could think bigger picture, have a very good presentation for myself, be able to talk and explain things maybe that I thought you weren't going to be asked. Those are really important things, I think, that make a good first impression. And then being really conscious that a lot of times you're going to come into an entry-level role in a fast-paced organization. You're going to have to pick up things without a lot of direction and just be able to go with it. And so being able to be flexible and to showcase that, those are things that I think set people apart. And if those are areas that, you're really strong at, I think you can definitely make a mark for yourself.
I would piggyback on what Chris said. In the teaching field, you get a teaching certificate to teach either high school or middle school or elementary. The more certifications you have, the more flexible you are in applying for jobs. And nobody wants to hire an old homemaking teacher. So when I had to take a job that I wasn't certified for, I had to go back to school, which for me, it ended up being okay. I went back to school, got a master's and a secondary. So I have an array of certifications that allow me to be flexible in looking for a job. But I'll go back to what Chris says. I think people need to know the company, whether it's Exxon or whether it's 7-Eleven or whether it's, Corpus Christi ISD. You need to know what the corporation stands for. What are their values? Because if it doesn't match your values, then it's probably not a good match. So you need to do a little bit of homework. What was eye-opening for me as an administrator, we had a panel of elementary students, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, and it was for administrators, and one of the questions was, what question would you ask if you were on a panel to hire a teacher? What question would you ask? What do you think they said? Chris, Roland, Brad? Here's what they said. It floored me. He said the little kids, 4th grader, first question I would ask is, do you like kids? Really? Because there's kids are, they're very perceptive, and they know when they have a teacher that's there for the job and not because it's a career or not because they love what they're doing. So I'll end mine by saying you need to find something that you love to do, not the job title, the work. It's about the work.
Fantastic. That is very good and very important point for everybody. A next question we have is, any tips on how to have a good virtual interview?
I'm not answering that one. I'm stretching myself here as it is.
Chris, do you want to take that one first, since
Yeah.
you've been active with that?
Yeah, definitely. And there's some basic housekeeping on this. I would really recommend dress to impress on this. I know it's virtual and remote, but you're still making an impression with a potential employer. So I would recommend dressing the same way you would do for an in-person interview. Have an appropriate place to be able to do the interview. Everyone's time is valuable. Make sure that you have a good, connection. And then the other piece, I know it's hard, try to maintain eye contact as much as possible. It's not completely natural with the webcam, but you still want to have that human connection going on in the interview. And you don't want to be doing this where you're looking to your notes or other things constantly. It feels a little bit disconnected. I know everyone's nervous in an interview, but the one good thing about webcams, you can turn it on in advance and sort of practice a little bit to make sure, just like if you're on camera on TV, that you feel natural. So, I would recommend, if you're not in the habit of doing virtual interviews, make sure you have a good connection, dress appropriately, practice a little bit to make sure that you're going to appear attentive and be a part of it. And, just be flexible. Lots of crazy things happen on remote interviews. So don't let it stress you out, but it can be a great tool to be able to reach people and to make a really good impression.
Thank you, Chris. Rolando?
Yeah, this is a really good question. I think, and I fully agree with everything Chris said. In terms of the dress, the location, the distractions, right? Try and really avoid having your dog barking in the background and running around and that kind of stuff, right? It's not necessarily the end of the world if it happens, but you do want to treat it as though it's a professional setting. And, those are the kind of things you want to make sure you set up for. The only other thing I would really add, though, and I think Chris kind of touched on this, is really try and get yourself into a mindset that you're there in person and that you're not doing it virtually, right? And it might be a good idea if you can maybe, do a Zoom call with somebody and kind of practice it and get as natural as you can. Because really, if you can get really comfortable and visualize yourself being there, you're more likely to make a connection with the interviewer. And I think that's going to go a long way in terms of making a positive impression, one. And then two, you're more likely to be yourself, which I think everybody benefits if you're yourself in the interview, right? The interviewers get a better feel for you, and you sort of feel like, hey, I've kind of demonstrated who I am. I've been very transparent in this conversation. So if you can make that connection and kind of visualize that you're there in person, that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Another question we have, and this is a very good one given our current circumstances. What words of encouragement would you give to students or recent grads who are frustrated with the job hunt in this COVID and economic environment?
I think the only thing to do is to stick with it. That's how you demonstrate grit. That's how you demonstrate determination. Just don't give up. I mean, everybody's in the same COVID pandemic boat right now.
Yeah, and I would say, I know it's difficult if you're in it right now. It's not going to be forever, and companies still need good people. There's definitely some industries that are disproportionately affected by what's going on right now, and maybe one of the things we talked about earlier too is like being more flexible with where maybe you start your career and your career path. COVID is changing the world to some extent, keeping that in mind. But I just always believe that, if you're a talented person who finds the right types of organization, companies are going to need people. And so you just got to stick to it and don't get discouraged, and the right opportunity will come along.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think, it's really unfortunate that we have a lot of students coming out this year, and I know it's causing a lot of anxiety in seniors in particular who are graduating. But yeah, this is not your fault, right? It's something that's happened, but how you respond to it and how you deal with it is going to show more about you as a person than any other typical kind of hiring year, right? And so are you going to kind of like be a person who would, be discouraged and kind of like not really do a whole lot of work because nobody is hiring, nobody wants to talk to me, or you can be responsive in a way that says, look, I'm going to do everything I can to get what I can, even if it's not the right fit, because I want to demonstrate, right? I want to demonstrate that I'm not just wallowing in a bad situation, but I'm trying to make the best of these circumstances. And so go out there, do as much interviewing as you can, talk to people even if they're not hiring, to get the practice and to be able to demonstrate, and then take what you can, because when the right opportunity comes around, which may be a year later or whatever the circumstance may be, a couple of years later, if you can demonstrate, look, during this period, I just didn't sit and say, woe is me, but I try to do the best that I can, you'll be demonstrating a characteristic and a character, really, and the person of who you are, that's going to be much appreciated, I think, by the potential employer.
Very good points. We have another great question. You probably observe graduates from other universities in your company or organization. How do the javelinas as employees stack up against other schools? It's not a competition, but it is. So we just want to see how do we compare?
We're here,
Yeah,
aren't we?
Very good point.
Yeah,
Rolly,
I'll
you
be
want to
happy.
start off?
Yeah, I'll be happy to kick off. So I've done relatively well within the company, and so I think Carolina's compete very well at ExxonMobil, and I have a couple of coworkers who have done just as well, if not even better, right? And so I think, underlying in the question, there seems to be a test of, hey, how does A&I measure up against other universities? And this is what I'll tell you is, look, A&I is a great school, right? And it's got the right credentials and the right capabilities to really produce top-notch individuals, right? In our case, we look for engineers. And what's almost more important when you get into industry is not so much where you got your degree, because that doesn't matter. It's what you do with what you've learned, and it's what you do with the opportunities that are given to you. And I think A&I prepared me extremely well for that. And so, it's a matter of, hey, taking what you've been given and what you've been taught and what you've had opportunities to grow in, and then really applying that in with the right, proactive, bring as much value with rigor, technical capability, apply it where you go work, and you'll see the rewards will come that way. And look, we hire MIT, we hire Harvard, we hire, you name it, right? All the University of Pennsylvania, we hire all these from all these Ivy League schools too, right? But once you're in, it's like professional football, right? It doesn't matter if you're from James Madison or from Ohio State. If you can, if you're a defensive end and you can get to the quarterback, hey, that's what counts.
And I think that's a great point, and I would echo it as well. Like, even within our organization, there's folks from TAMUK as well, along with myself. There's folks from SMU, from TCU, from Harvard. Once you get in, it's really the merit of what you bring to the table as an individual. And we even see it, it's always fascinating to me. I always feel like the cream rises to the top. And I think it's a school that can really prepare you to do it, but you make it what it is. And I think that's really important, that you have to make the impression, and you're going to take your career as far as it can go. This is a great launching pad, and I think that it sets you up for success. But I think the point of once you're in an organization, it's not as relevant, I think is a really great career advice.
I agree with both of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Another question is, what skill, talent, attitude you'd wish you saw more in college students in the job market today that you think would serve them well and set them apart from the competition? So what is a skill, talent, or attitude you wish you would see more in our current generation that are entering the job market?
I think an important quality is to be able to come in and work as a member of a team. I don't think any of us are successful are by ourselves, but it's the people that you surround yourself with. And I think that if you learn those skills before you leave the university, I think that will help in the long run. I think the other thing is, and it's funny in this pandemic that we find ourselves, a lot of people are working from home, and but I think it's, the being on time, being the first one at your job and being the last one to leave, and showing initiative and showing that you can do the work and you can be trusted. I think those are important. And I think the other thing that's important right now is the writing skills. Just being able to write a nice, cohesive sentence, even if it's on the computer. I mean, I think that's becoming a lost art along the way. And I think it's needed regardless of what profession you find yourself in.
Very good point, Dr. Mora. Communication skills, written and orally. So,
Mm-hmm.
Chris, what about you?
similar. A couple things that I would say is being able to like really put into thought, into words what you're thinking, sort of strategic thinking. You're going to do that a lot from a business perspective, and things won't always be spelled out. So being able to take the big picture and boil it down into action steps is something I think that I wish I would see more folks coming out of college being able to do. And then a really practical one, having really great presentation development skills. My job is pretty much developing decks endlessly for different presentations and public speaking. I mean, it's not the flashiest, sexiest thing you're going to do in your career, but I think regardless of the discipline you went into, you're going to be doing a lot of this, and having the ability to craft something that looks professional and communicates what you're trying to say in a professional way that with visuals. I mean, it's a big opportunity, and I think that's absolutely something that you can develop a skill set in college, and it immediately will be something you will use day in and day out in a new role.
Roland?
Yeah, thank you. Really good. And I agree with my panelists. They're both obviously very good A&I graduates and have hit on the right topics, right, from my perspective. I will expand upon one, and it's, coming from the background of being an engineer, I find the engineers tend to have good technical writing skills, right, when they come out of college, right, because you do your reports, your lab reports, and, your papers and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to business writing skills, and I think Linda and Chris, to some extent, we're getting to this, being able to take a complicated issue and then being able to kind of describe it in very succinct language, written or oral, right? That summarizes the issue, kind of just describes where the action needs to go, and then kind of like, kind of restates it in a way that kind of closes us out. That's a skill I wish that more of our graduates had coming out of college. Chris talked about presentation skills, and Linda talked about, being proactive, having team skills. The other one, I think, which kind of, speaks to all of that too, is really around the leadership skills. And that's why I think it's important, to the extent you can get into organizations and learn how organizations operate, what it is to set goals, what it is to help drive, right, the group towards those goals. Those leadership and management skills, picking those up and being able to apply them at school in those scenarios, such that you have that background and capability once you start, that really gives you kind of a good running start in the corporate world.
Thank you. Another question is, any advice you would give an individual who may have not gotten the job or internship they wanted?
Yeah, I'll start with, I would tell you that it goes back to what I said earlier about doing the best with what you're given. Your career will be you're going to work many years, right? And I think you need to look at your career in terms of the long run, and look at it in terms of long term, right? Where am I going? What am I doing? And to the extent, like I said, when I took that assignment that wasn't, I thought, the next best assignment, right? If I had just decided, look, I'm packing up and leaving the company, I would have kind of missed out on a lot of wonderful opportunities, not just in that assignment, but future assignments down the road. And so I think you may not think it's the right answer, but give it a full shot. If the organization has given you and shown some faith in you to hire you, then I think you owe it to them to give it your best shot, even if you're not fully thinking this is the right answer for me. And go in with the right attitude to say, look, how can I make this work in a way that really benefits, the company as well as myself, and create something here that really is going to be beneficial for me in the long run. If you do that and look, and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, then you can walk away, right, and move on. But you know that you gave it your best shot, and you can walk away with your head held up high.
Yeah, I agree, Rolando. Even in in the teaching profession, you sometimes don't get the jobs that you want. They're not available. And so in my case, you end up taking whatever job there is, whether I've done it before or not. And you do the best that you can. You do the best that you can, because that reputation is going to follow you the rest of your life. You know, it's just going to follow you. And so you have to, you know, you have a little bit of backbone, stick to it, do the best you can. And like Rolando said, if at the end of the term it's not for you, then you gave it your best shot and you go on to something that might fit your skills a little better.
Chris, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think and great points already made. I found in my career, sometimes the doors that were shut led me down the right path. So just, you know, maybe specifically like, don't give up hope. If you had your sights set on something that didn't work out, you know, keep looking at other opportunities and continue to push and better yourself, and, you know, the right opportunity will come along.
Good, thank you. So we have another question. Right out of school, for your first job destination, what questions you wish you would have asked your new employer? So for your first job right out of college, what would be the questions you wish you would have asked your first employer?
You know, I was just so happy to get a job that I don't know. I don't know that I would have asked a question. It was my first job. I was happy to do it. It was in my field and right down the road from Kingsville, Texas, and I was happy as a clam. I don't know that I would have asked any questions at that very first job. Maybe I didn't know enough to know what to ask. I'll end it with that. That's probably true.
Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like it's so, your first job, you just don't totally know what you're getting into. Maybe it's easier after you've gone through a couple different roles. But the thing that I've found that's made my work experiences either great or not so great has been the folks you work with. And I think understanding the company culture and what the company really values and making sure it's right for you is the most important thing, because you will be so unhappy working for a company that you are not a fit in the culture or you don't have the same values that they have. I don't think any amount of money can make up for some of that stress and work-life balance that you're going to struggle with. So I think the most important question is asking the questions about what really makes the company tick and what do they really value, and looking at the types of folks that are in the company and see how their career path went, so that you're not surprised if when you get into the role, the way to advance is a bunch of lateral moves through different departments. You want to know those types of things early on, and you want to know what the company really values. So that would be what I would go back and ask, is making sure that I really understood what the company was about, what they valued, and people, make sure it lined up with what I wanted at that point in my life.
Thank you, Chris. Roland?
Yeah, look, the fellow panelists have really done a good job outlining its, culture, the people you're working with, what the opportunities are, what the corporate values are. I think all that's good. The one that kind of sticks out to me is I really, as sort of like Linda, I was so happy to have a job coming out of college. I had a paycheck coming in. It was really a great feeling. And, I think I didn't spend enough time understanding the corporate benefits. And over the years, I've really come to appreciate how much value those can have. And so I would say, look, it's the only thing I can add after the good comments from Linda and Chris. But yeah, just maybe understanding a little bit more about the corporate benefits. Those tend to be kind of mysterious, right? They're kind of structured where you get maybe some you get some stipends, or you get some subsidies. Or, it's the life insurance, the medical insurance, all that stuff. Just understanding that a little bit better, I think, would have been helpful for me.
Christina, let's.
Yeah, because when you're 22 years old, you're not thinking about retirement.
Yeah. But you should.
I know you should, but
Never too
that's
late
what I
to
tell
start
people
planning.
now.
Hey, Christina, let's take one more question, and then we'll have a little wrap up round, and I'll close us out.
Okay, so just FYI, Chris, one of our attendees said that they love the 7-Eleven burritos. So our last
Yeah,
question, which
Chris.
is a good one, is what is a project or program that you worked on that was really fun or a real point of pride for you?
For me, I think in the 14 years that I spent at Northside School District here in San Antonio, it's the 4th largest district in the state. I think for me, because it's a very diverse population, we have very, very poor kids, very, very rich kids, and it's a district of haves and have-nots. And so we spent 8 and 9 years working on curriculum development that was, now I'm gonna forget it, individualized instruction for students. And I know that it sounds crazy, but teachers need to know what the students' interests are, what they're willing to work on, and still give them the foundational skills, the curriculum that the state says to offer. It was a long-term project, but in the end, Northside was a recognized district in the accountability of the state at that point in time. And so I think that was a point of pride for me, but like we said earlier, you don't do it by yourself, me and the team that worked with me. And of course, the teachers who in the end make everything happen.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, probably the project that has been the most fun and the most pride for me is the project I'm currently working on. So right now I'm leading the national expansion of our Laredo Taco Company restaurants all over the US. We're opening thousands of sites over the next couple of years, from California to New York City. And so it's a culmination of 5 years of work for me, where we've gone and I've led a rebrand of an entire restaurant concept. We've done a lot of culinary work, and to see it now come to life all over the place and be able to have millions and millions of our tacos, enjoyed by customers. It's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of work. So it's sort of an ongoing, labor of love. But it's really been at this point the culmination of my career, and just really enjoying the entire experience as it goes along.
I'm sure we'll all enjoy that as well, Chris. Rolando?
Yeah, look, I've had a lot of assignments and projects over the course of my career that I have absolutely loved and felt I grew a lot in and added a lot of value to the company. If you force me to pick one, I would say it's probably my assignment just before this current one, in which I was in I was in Europe leading $1 billion plus investment for the corporation, and I picked that out because, one, the size. Two, it's sort of like an accumulation of how I built my career in terms of managing projects of increasing value with increasing responsibility. I was in the top position on this investment. I was accountable for the business, the technical and the operational performance of the project. Had a lot of visibility. That was less so much, right? The visibility I'm okay with, right? That's good. But it was more that it is because of it had visibility because this would actually move the needle in terms of corporate profit, right? And for it's a large corporation, it's sort of like, wow, is that me? I'm doing that? It's sort of a kind of way I look back on that. And so I think it's a combination of being all the skills I developed, technical, business, leadership, managerial skills, to bear on a very large investment that had a lot of people working on it, a lot of people I got to mentor and to coach and to guide. We had lots of challenges completing the effort. It was a fun time for myself and my family personally, right? Because we were in Europe, and we did a lot of traveling on weekends and when we had the right opportunities. And so it was just, everything about it was just such a wonderful experience, and I really, really did enjoy it.
Man, just fantastic to to hear about these projects and these things that you've all done and success you've had. At Texas A&M Kingsville, our mission is for education, discovery, and service into South Texas and beyond. And each of you embody that and exemplify that. And it's just really neat to hear your stories. Couple of housekeeping items before we go any further. One, I need all three of you to look into the camera and smile. I've got an attendee who's going to take a picture. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Okay, now our moderator, Christina, has done a fantastic job. How about a round of applause for Christina? I appreciate that. I would like to get a final round. Is there anything that you wanted to share with our attendees, with our students? Again, we're gonna record that. We've recorded this. We're gonna put this on our website and have it available for a few days or weeks ahead of us. Any parting thoughts or things you didn't get to share with us today that you'd like to say now? And I'll start with you, Dr. Mora.
I just think that, the time that I spent at A&I was a really enjoyable time. And to this day, my college roommates and I get together once a year. That's been a long time. And so you forge lifelong relationships. And in fact, one time we even drove to Kingsville we met in Corpus and drove to Kingsville and had our picture taken in front of the javelinas there and the main drag. So great times.
Wonderful. Rolando?
Yeah, I would say that, look, just a couple of things. One, anything you do in life, just do it to the fullest extent that you can and bring the most value that you can to that effort, right? Everybody's gonna, not only will everybody appreciate that, but you're gonna feel much better about yourself as an individual if you know you're giving it your all and you're doing the best you can. And then the other piece would be when you're working, because look, everything, I think you picked up on that. Teamwork is essential in the business world. And, one of my models has been that everybody can contribute, right? And so, make sure that if you're on a team or if you're leading a team, that you're bringing out everybody's capability in that effort, and take time to build it together as a team so that everybody can contribute. Those couple of things and others, I mean, those are the things that really are going to bring you a lot of satisfaction in your job. You can get, monetary awards, all that's really great, titles, really nice. But I think in the end, if you know you're doing your best, you're adding value and you're helping others grow, I think that's going to really lead to the most fulfilling experiences that you can get.
Very nice. Chris, final thoughts?
Yeah, I know if you're on the job hunt now, and obviously we talked about like COVID has caused a lot of stress, I would just, make sure you're taking care of yourself physically and mentally so you can be the best version of you. It's so important in life and in your workplace. And then, Linda mentioned it. I mean, enjoy your time. This is a really formative, unique experience in your life. Make the most of it. You're going to have plenty of opportunity to work, trust me. So enjoy this period and really savor it because it really is some of the best experiences you'll have.
Well, this has been wonderful. It's been great to have you all virtually back on campus. I'm actually on campus, so I was hosting you virtually. We look forward to a day that you can be on campus physically and we can host you in person. We're so grateful and thankful for you to stay involved with the university the way that you do, and giving your time today is just a wonderful example of that. So thank you all on behalf of the Javelina Alumni Association and our Office of Career Services. It's been a pleasure. We can't thank you enough, and you all have a good evening.
Thank you, Brad. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.